Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his face as he checked his rifle one more time. The morning sun was bright over New Haven Colony and everything seemed normal. Children played in the streets while their parents worked in the fields and mines. Nobody knew that death was coming from the stars. The first explosion shook the ground so hard that Jake fell to his knees. Red lights flashed in the sky and the air filled with a sound like thunder that never stopped. Giant black ships appeared above the colony, bigger than anything Jake had ever seen. All soldiers report to stations now. Captain Lisa Ford's voice cracked through Jake's radio. We are under attack. Jake ran toward the defense center, but the streets were already full of screaming people. Another explosion lit up the sky and a building near the market collapsed into dust and fire. A woman carrying a baby ran past him, crying for help. The defense center was chaos. Soldiers ran everywhere, trying to get ready for a fight they were not prepared for. Captain Ford stood at the main table, her face pale as she looked at the reports coming in. How many ships? Jake asked as he joined his unit. Too many, Ford replied. Maybe 50, maybe more. Our satellites are gone. The orbital defense platform is destroyed. We have maybe 2 hours before they land ground forces. Jake felt his stomach drop. New Haven only had 300 soldiers and some old weapons. These aliens had ships that could destroy buildings from space. What are your orders, Captain? Asked Lieutenant Ben Carter, Jake's unit leader. Get the civilians to the emergency shelters, Ford said. Take as many as you can carry. The evacuation tunnels lead to the old mining caves. If we're lucky, some of us will survive this. Jake's unit ran into the burning streets. The alien ships were landing now, and Jake could see strange soldiers in silver armor coming out of them. They were tall and moved like machines, carrying weapons that shot blue fire. This way, Jake shouted to a group of families hiding behind an overturned car. Follow me to the shelter. An old man stumbled and fell. Jake helped him up and half carried him toward the shelter entrance. Behind them, the alien soldiers were shooting everything that moved. The blue fire turned people to ash in seconds. They reached the shelter just as another building exploded nearby. Jake pushed the civilians inside and turned to go back for more people. That was when he heard the crying. It came from a house that was half destroyed by the bombing. The roof had fallen in and smoke poured from the broken windows. Jake knew he should keep moving, but the crying sounded so scared and alone. He climbed through the wreckage, following the sound. In what used to be a bedroom, he found her. She was small, maybe 5 feet tall, with pale blue skin and large purple eyes. Her hair was silver and hung down to her shoulders. She wore simple clothes that were torn and dirty. When she saw Jake, she pressed herself against the wall and made a sound like a frightened animal. Hey, it's okay, Jake said softly, holding up his hands to show he was not armed. I'm not going to hurt you. She spoke in a language Jake did not understand, but her voice was musical even when she was scared. She pointed at herself and said something that sounded like Zara. Zara, Jake repeated. She nodded quickly. Jake could hear the alien soldiers getting closer. Their heavy boots made the broken house shake. He had to make a choice. He could run and save himself, or he could try to save this strange blue woman who was clearly not one of the attackers. Come on, he said, reaching out his hand. We have to go now. Zara looked at his hand for a long moment. Then she reached out and took it. Her skin was warm and soft, and Jake felt something strange when they touched, like a small electric shock. They ran through the house toward the back door, but they were too late. The ceiling started to fall as another explosion shook the building. Jake saw the heavy wooden beams coming down right toward Zara. Without thinking, Jake threw himself forward and wrapped his arms around her, pulling her against his chest. The beam hit his back and shoulder, and pain shot through his whole body. More wood and stone crashed down around them. Jake held Zara tighter and rolled to cover her with his body as much as possible. Dust filled the air and he could barely breathe. Something wet ran down his face, probably blood. But Zara was safe under him, and that was all that mattered right now. When the crashing stopped, they were buried under pieces of the house. Jake's back felt like it was on fire, but he was alive. Zara was alive too. She was looking up at him with those big purple eyes, and she was saying something in her musical language. It's okay, Jake whispered, even though he was not sure it was true. We're going to be okay. Outside, he could hear the alien soldiers searching through the ruins. Their voices were cold and mechanical. If they found Jake and Zara here, they would both die. But for now, they were hidden in the darkness under the broken house. Jake kept his arms around Zara and waited. He had no idea that this moment would change everything. He had no idea that saving this blue woman would lead to something he never expected. He just knew that he could not let her die. 3 months had passed since the attack, and Jake still felt pain in his back every morning. The underground bunker was cold and damp, but it was home now for 200 survivors. They had built it in the old mining tunnels beneath New Haven, far from the alien soldiers who now controlled the surface. Jake sat at a small table, cleaning his rifle, while Zara worked nearby. She was fixing torn clothes with careful hands, humming a soft song from her world. In 3 months, she had learned enough human words to have simple talks, but her accent still made every word sound like music. "Jake," she said, looking up from her sewing. "The patrol comes tonight." "I feel them," Jake nodded. Zara had a strange ability to sense the alien soldiers before anyone else could see or hear them. She said it was normal for her people. Something about feeling emotions from far away. It had saved their lives many times. "How many?" Jake asked. Zara closed her eyes for a moment. 5, maybe 6. "They are angry about something. They will search the old town ruins." Captain Ford walked over to their table. She looked tired and older than her 40 years. Leading the survivors was hard work, and they all depended on her to keep them alive. "Morrison, we need to talk," Ford said. "The supply raid yesterday was a success, but we're still running low on medicine. Dr. Alex says we need antibiotics if we want to keep everyone healthy through winter." Jake looked at Zara. She had been the key to their successful raids. Her ability to sense alien emotions helped them avoid patrols and find the best times to strike. But every mission was dangerous, and Jake hated putting her at risk. "Where do we need to go?" Jake asked. "The hospital in Sector 7. Intel says the aliens are using it as a supply depot. It's heavily guarded, but they have everything we need." Zara stood up and walked to the map on the wall. She studied it with those large purple eyes, touching different areas with her finger. "Here," she said, pointing to a building near the hospital. "The guards feel bored here. They do not watch carefully. We can enter from this side." Ford raised her eyebrows. Even after 3 months, some of the survivors still found Zara's abilities hard to believe. But her information was always right. "What about the main entrance?" Ford asked. 4 guards. They are alert. One is very angry, maybe hungry. He will shoot first and ask questions later. Jake packed his gear while Zara prepared her own supplies. She had learned to move quietly and hide well, but she was not a fighter. Jake's job was to protect her while she guided them past the alien patrols. As they prepared to leave, old Mrs. Betty walked over to them. She was one of the few people who had been kind to Zara from the beginning. "You two be careful out there," Betty said. She looked at Zara with grandmotherly eyes. "And honey, make sure the stubborn man doesn't do anything too heroic." Zara smiled. It was a beautiful smile that made her whole face light up. "I will watch him," she said in her musical voice. They left the bunker through a hidden exit that came out in a collapsed building. The night was dark, with heavy clouds covering the stars. Jake led the way, with Zara close behind him and 2 other soldiers following. The city looked like a graveyard. Most of the buildings were damaged or destroyed. Strange alien lights moved in the distance where the occupying forces had set up their base. Sometimes Jake could hear the sound of their flying machines patrolling the skies. "Stop," Zara whispered suddenly. She grabbed Jake's arm and pulled him behind a broken wall. They waited in silence for several minutes. Then Jake heard it too. The heavy footsteps of alien soldiers walking past their hiding place. Without Zara's warning, they would have walked right into them. When the patrol was gone, they continued toward the hospital. Zara guided them through the safest path, avoiding streets where she sensed danger. It took twice as long as the direct route, but they reached the building without being seen. The hospital was a large white building with most of its windows broken. Alien technology glowed softly inside, casting strange shadows on the walls. Jake could see guards at the main entrance, just as Zara had predicted. They circled to the side entrance that Zara had chosen. She was right again. Only one bored guard stood there looking at the sky instead of watching for intruders. "How do we get past him?" whispered Ben, one of the other soldiers. Zara studied the guard for a moment. "He is very tired. His mind wanders. If we wait 10 minutes, he will fall asleep standing up." They waited exactly 10 minutes. The guard's head began to nod and his eyes closed. Moving like shadows, they slipped past him and into the building. Inside, they found exactly what they needed. The aliens had collected medical supplies from all over the city and stored them in the hospital's old pharmacy. Jake and his team filled their packs with antibiotics, painkillers, and other medicines. We should go, Zara whispered. More guards coming. They are suspicious about something. They moved toward the exit, but suddenly alarm sounds filled the building. Red lights flashed, and Jake could hear alien voices shouting orders. Run! Jake yelled. They raced through the corridors as alien soldiers poured into the building. Blue energy blasts lit up the darkness, burning holes in the walls around them. One shot missed Jake's head by inches. Zara suddenly stopped and pressed herself against a wall. This way, she said, pointing to a door that Jake had not noticed. That's not the way out, Ben protested. Trust her, Jake said. And they followed Zara through the door. She led them down a stairway into the hospital's basement. The alien voices grew fainter above them. Zara moved confidently through the dark tunnel, somehow knowing which way to go. How do you know about this place? Jake asked as they ran. The walls remember, Zara replied mysteriously. Your people's emotions stay in places they used. I can feel where the safe paths are. They emerged from a maintenance tunnel 6 blocks away from the hospital. Behind them, they could see lights and hear the sounds of alien soldiers searching the building. That was too close, Ben said, breathing hard. Jake looked at Zara with new respect. She had not only predicted the danger, but found a way out that none of them knew existed. Without her, they would probably be dead. As they walked back to the bunker, Zara moved closer to Jake. You are ready to fight them all to protect the team, she said softly. That's my job, Jake replied. No, Zara said, touching his arm gently. That is who you are. Your people call it duty. My people call it something else. What do your people call it? Zara was quiet for a moment, searching for the right words in human language. Velthan, she finally said. It means protector heart, someone who shields others, even when it costs them everything. Jake did not fully understand what she meant, but something in her voice made him feel warm despite the cold night air. They walked the rest of the way in comfortable silence. Two beings from different worlds who had found something valuable in each other. Back in the bunker, they distributed the medicine to Dr. Alex and the other survivors. People smiled and thanked them, and Jake felt proud of what they had accomplished. But as he lay down to sleep that night, Jake found himself thinking about what Zara had called him. Velthan, protector heart. He wondered what other words her people had for things that humans did not fully understand. 8 months after the invasion, Jake had become famous among the resistance groups. Stories spread about the human soldier and his alien partner, who could strike anywhere and disappear like ghosts. What the stories did not mention was how confused Jake felt most of the time. Zara had changed a lot since that first day. She could speak human language almost perfectly now. Though she still used strange words from her own culture, she had also started doing things that Jake did not understand. Every morning she would touch his forehead and say words in her musical language. She would save the best parts of her food for him. When they walked together, she stayed close to his right side, never his left. She had sewn small blue stones into his jacket using thread she made from her own hair. Zara, Jake said one morning as she performed her usual forehead ritual. What are you doing exactly? She smiled that beautiful smile that still made his heart beat faster. I am saying good morning to my Velthan, she replied. But what does it mean? The touching the stones, all of it? Zara sat down beside him on his small cot. They were in the new base now, deeper underground in an abandoned mining complex. It was warmer here and they had more space. On my world, Zara began carefully, when someone saves your life, it creates a bond, not just friendship. Something deeper. The person who saves becomes responsible for the one who was saved, and the saved one becomes devoted to their protector. Jake nodded. That made sense, sort of. But there are different kinds of bonds, Zara continued. Family bond, friendship bond, battle bond. She paused and looked down at her hands. And mate bond. Mate bond? Jake asked, though he was starting to guess what she meant. When you covered me with your body, when you risked everything to keep me safe, it was not just protection. It was claiming. In my culture, that act means you choose me as your mate. The morning words, the food sharing, the stones. These are how a Kethani wife honors her husband. Jake felt like someone had hit him in the head with a rock. Wife, husband? Zara, I didn't know. You did not mean it the way my people understand it, Zara said quickly. I know this now. Humans have different ways. But for me, the bond is real. I cannot change what I feel. Jake stared at her. In 8 months of fighting and surviving together, he had grown to care about Zara more than he wanted to admit. She was brave, smart, and kind. When she smiled, it was like sunshine in their dark underground world. When she was in danger, Jake felt panic like nothing he had ever experienced. But marriage, that was a big step, bigger than anything Jake had ever considered. What does this mean? Jake asked. What do you expect from me? Nothing you do not want to give, Zara replied sadly. I understand that humans choose their mates differently. You have time to decide, to look for someone you love. People believe the bond chooses for us. Before Jake could respond, Lieutenant Ben Carter came running over to them. Jake, Captain Ford needs you both right now. We have a problem. They hurried to the command center, where Ford was studying reports with a grim expression. Dr. Alex was there too, along with several other resistance leaders. What's the situation? Jake asked. The aliens captured 12 of our people during yesterday's supply run, Ford replied. They're being held in the detention center downtown. Intel says they'll be executed tomorrow unless we can get them out. Jake studied the map spread across the table. The detention center was heavily fortified, surrounded by guards and automated weapons. It would be almost impossible to get inside. It's a suicide mission, Ben said quietly. We'd need an army to break in there. No, Zara said, moving closer to the map. We need the right distraction. She pointed to several locations around the detention center. Guards here, here, and here. But they are not just guarding, they are afraid. Something has made them nervous. Afraid of what? Ford asked. Zara closed her eyes and concentrated. Her empathic abilities had grown stronger over the months, allowing her to sense emotions from farther away. There is someone else in the detention center, she said slowly. Someone the guards fear. Not human, not hegemony either. Something else. Another alien species? Dr. Alex asked. Maybe, but this one is very powerful, very angry. The guards give it a wide space. Jake studied the map more carefully. If we could free this other prisoner first, create chaos from inside. The guards would panic, Zara agreed. In the confusion, we could reach our people. Ford shook her head. Too risky. We don't know what this other alien might do. It could kill our people along with the guards. I'll go, Jake said suddenly. Just me and Zara, small team, fast entry. If it goes wrong, we don't lose everyone. Absolutely not, Ford replied. I'm not sending my best team on a suicide mission. Our people will die if we do nothing, Jake argued. At least this way they have a chance. Zara touched Jake's arm. I will go with my Velthan, she said firmly. 2 is better than 1. Ford looked between them for a long moment. She had seen how well they worked together, how they seemed to read each other's thoughts during dangerous situations. If you go, you follow protocol, Ford said finally. In and out fast. If it looks impossible, you abort and get back here. Jake and Zara spent the rest of the day planning their approach. They would enter through the old sewer system and work their way up to the detention level. Zara would use her abilities to track guard movements while Jake handled the combat. That night, as they prepared their gear, Zara seemed quieter than usual. You're afraid, she said to Jake. Always am before a mission, Jake replied. Keeps me sharp. Not afraid of dying, Zara said. Afraid of me dying. Jake stopped packing his equipment and looked at her. She was right. The thought of losing Zara terrified him more than any enemy they might face. Yes, he admitted. This is why Kethani mate bonds are permanent, Zara said softly. When you truly care for someone, you cannot imagine existing without them. Jake realized she was right. Somewhere in the past 8 months, Zara had become the most important thing in his world. Not just as a partner or friend, but as something more, something he was only beginning to understand. Zara, he said, when we get back from this mission, maybe we should talk more about this bond thing. Her face lit up with hope and joy. You mean this? I mean, I don't want to lose you, Jake said. And I don't want you to think I don't care. Because I do care. More than I probably should. Zara stepped closer and placed her hand over his heart. Hearts choose what minds cannot understand, she said. This is what my grandmother taught me. Jake covered her hand with his own. For the first time, he did not pull away from her touch. Instead, he let himself feel what had been growing between them for months. When we get back, he promised. When we get back, Zara agreed. They finished their preparations in comfortable silence, both knowing that tomorrow's mission would either bring them closer together or end everything they had built. But for tonight they had hope, and that was enough. 14 months after the invasion, everything changed again. Jake was checking weapons in the armory when the radio crackled to life with a transmission that made everyone stop what they were doing. "This is Admiral Patricia Hayes of the Human Naval Fleet," came the strong voice through the static. "We are in orbit above New Haven. Any surviving resistance forces, please respond." Captain Ford grabbed the radio so fast she almost dropped it. "Admiral Hayes, this is Captain Lisa Ford, Colonial Defense Force. We have 200 survivors in underground positions. Request immediate assistance." "Copy that, Captain. We have a full battle group here, and we're ready to take back your world. But we need intelligence on enemy positions and defenses." Jake felt hope surge through his chest for the first time in over a year. Real human warships, enough to fight the aliens on equal terms. Maybe they could actually win this time. "Morrison, get Zara," Ford ordered. "We need everything she knows about alien positions and patrol patterns." Jake found Zara in the small garden she had created in one of the tunnels. She was tending to vegetables she had somehow made grow in the artificial light. When she saw his expression, she stood up immediately. "Good news?" she asked. "The best," Jake replied, and he told her about the fleet. 2 hours later, they were in the command center with Admiral Hayes and her staff, who had come down in a shuttle. Hayes was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She listened carefully as Zara described alien positions, troop strengths, and patrol schedules. "This intelligence is excellent," Hayes said. "Better than anything our scouts have gathered." "How long have you been observing them?" "Zara has been working with our resistance teams for over a year," Ford explained. "She has special abilities that help her track enemy movements." "Special abilities?" Hayes asked, looking at Zara more carefully. "I can sense emotions from a distance," Zara explained in her musical voice. "Your enemies feel different than you do. I can track them by their feelings." One of the Admiral's officers, Commander Ron Blake, frowned. "How do we know we can trust alien intelligence? She could be feeding us false information." Jake stepped forward. "Zara has risked her life for us dozens of times. Her information has never been wrong." "That's quite a defense, Sergeant," Blake said coldly. "Are you sure your judgment isn't compromised?" "My judgment is fine," Jake replied, feeling anger rise in his chest. Admiral Hayes raised a hand to stop the argument. "What matters is results. If this intelligence helps us win, that's all I care about." She turned to Zara. "Can you guide our forces during the assault?" "Yes," Zara said. "But I work with Jake. We are a team." "She's right," Ford added. "They work better together than apart." Hayes nodded. "Fine. Morrison, you and—" She paused, looking at Zara. "I'm sorry, what's your name again?" "Zara Velthari," Zara replied. "Morrison and Velthari will accompany the assault team to the alien command center. Your job is to get our people inside so we can plant charges and destroy their main base." The next morning, Jake suited up in full combat gear for the first time in months. Real body armor, new weapons, proper communication equipment. It felt strange after so long with makeshift gear. Zara wore a modified human uniform that fit her smaller frame. She looked nervous but determined. This would be the biggest battle they had ever faced. "Remember," Jake said as they prepared to board the assault shuttle, "stay close to me. When the shooting starts, get behind cover and keep your head down." "I know," Zara replied. "I have been in battles before, Velthan." Commander Blake overheard her. "What did she just call you?" "It's a word in her language," Jake said. "It means partner." Blake looked suspicious, but before he could ask more questions, Admiral Hayes approached them. "Morrison, I need to ask you something," Hayes said. "My intelligence reports mention that you and Velthari work together unusually well. Some of the stories from other resistance groups sound almost impossible." "We understand each other," Jake replied carefully. "It's more than that," Hayes said. "The way people talk about you two, it's like you can read each other's minds." Zara stepped closer to Jake. "We are bonded," she said simply. "In my culture, this makes us stronger together." "Bonded how?" Hayes asked. Jake realized this was the moment he had been avoiding for months. He could give a simple military answer about partnership and teamwork. Or he could tell the truth. "She's my wife," Jake said clearly. The silence that followed was loud enough to hear. Commander Blake's mouth fell open. Several other officers stared at them like they had grown extra heads. "Your wife," Hayes repeated slowly. "Yes, Admiral." In her culture and in mine, we're married, Blake sputtered. Sergeant, you can't be serious. Marriage to an alien? That's not even legal. Actually, it is, Dr. Alex said, appearing beside them. I've been researching interspecies law. Colonial regulations allow marriage between any sentient beings who consent. The marriage is legally valid. Admiral Hayes studied Jake and Zara for a long moment. How long have you been married? About 6 months officially, Jake replied. But according to her culture, we've been bonded since the day I saved her life. And you're both certain about this decision? Jake looked at Zara, who smiled back at him with complete trust and love. Yes, Admiral. I'm certain. Hayes nodded slowly. Well then, congratulations. Now let's go win this war. The assault began at dawn. Human ships bombarded alien positions while ground troops advanced on multiple fronts. Jake and Zara moved with the elite unit tasked with capturing the command center. Zara's guidance was perfect as always. She led them through the safest paths, warning them about ambushes and hidden defenses. Her ability to sense alien emotions gave them an enormous advantage. They reached the command center without losing a single soldier. The building was a twisted spire of black metal that hurt to look at. Alien guards defended it desperately, but the human attack was too coordinated and too strong. Jake and his team planted explosive charges while Zara watched for enemy reinforcements. Everything was going according to plan until the alien commander appeared. It was huge, twice the size of a normal alien soldier, wearing armor that glowed with energy. It carried a weapon that fired bolts of lightning. When it saw Jake and Zara, it roared with rage and charged straight at them. "Get down!" Jake yelled, pushing Zara behind a broken wall. The alien commander's lightning weapon missed Jake by inches, leaving a smoking crater in the ground. Jake fired back, but his bullets bounced off the creature's armor like raindrops. The alien raised its weapon again, aiming directly at Zara. Jake saw what was about to happen and threw himself forward without thinking. The lightning bolt meant for Zara hit Jake instead, sending electricity through his whole body. Pain exploded through Jake's chest and arms. He felt his heart stop for a moment, then restart with an irregular beat. He collapsed to the ground, unable to move. Zara screamed. It was not a human scream, but something else, a sound that came from deep in her chest and rang with harmonics that hurt to hear. The alien commander stopped in its tracks, covering its ears as Zara's empathic cry hit it like a physical blow. Every alien soldier within 100 yards suddenly stopped fighting. They clutched their heads and fell to their knees as Zara's emotional scream overwhelmed their senses. In the sudden silence, human soldiers advanced and finished the battle. The command center fell and the explosives detonated, destroying the alien base. But Jake barely noticed any of this. He was lying on the ground, struggling to breathe, while Zara knelt beside him with tears streaming down her face. "Don't leave me," she whispered, placing her hands on his chest. "Please don't leave me." Jake felt warmth flowing from her hands into his body. The pain eased slightly, and his heartbeat became more regular. Somehow Zara was helping him heal. "I'm not going anywhere," Jake said weakly. "I promised we'd talk when we got back, remember?" Zara laughed and cried at the same time. "Stupid human," she said lovingly. "Always protecting others." Dr. Alex arrived with medical equipment and started working on Jake's injuries. But it was Zara's healing touch that kept him stable during the long trip back to the medical facility. Later, when Jake was recovering in a real hospital bed, Admiral Hayes came to visit them. "The war is over," she told them. "The alien fleet surrendered when we destroyed their command center. You two played a big part in that victory." "Zara did most of the work," Jake said. "You both did," Hayes corrected. "And I owe you an apology, Sergeant. Some of my officers questioned your relationship with Velthari. After seeing how you worked together, I understand why you chose each other." She turned to Zara. "The colonial government has authorized me to offer you full citizenship and any position you want in our defense forces. I want to help humans and Kethani understand each other." Zara replied. "There are more of my people in hegemony prison camps. When they are freed, they will need someone to help them adjust to life with humans." Hayes smiled. "I think that can be arranged. We're going to need ambassadors and cultural advisors as we rebuild." After the Admiral left, Jake took Zara's hand. "So, Mrs. Morrison," he said, "how does it feel to be a war hero?" "Like home," Zara replied, squeezing his hand. "Wherever you are feels like home." Jake realized that she was right. After everything they had been through, after all the battles and fears and confusion, this alien woman had become his home. And he had become... 6 months after the liberation of New Haven, Jake woke up to the sound of children laughing outside his window. It was a sound he had almost forgotten during the long months of war. Now it filled his heart with hope every morning. He rolled over to find Zara already awake, sitting by the window and watching the sunrise. Her hand rested on her belly, which had grown round over the past few months. Inside, their child was growing. The first human Cathani baby anyone had ever known about. "Good morning, Velthan," Zara said with a smile. "The little one is very active today. I think she knows her papa is awake." Jake sat up and placed his hand next to Zara's on her belly. He felt a small kick against his palm and grinned. "She's going to be a fighter just like her mother. And protective like her father," Zara added. They had been living in a small house in the rebuilt section of New Haven for 3 months now. The colonial government had given them the house as a wedding gift, along with Jake's promotion to lieutenant and Zara's position as director of interspecies relations. It was a strange new world they were building. Human and Cathani refugees worked together to rebuild the damaged city. Other alien species who had been freed from hegemony prison camps were arriving every week. New Haven was becoming the first truly mixed species colony in human space. Jake got dressed in his new uniform. Today was special. They were dedicating the new cultural center that Zara had designed. It would be a place where humans and aliens could learn about each other's customs and traditions. "Are you nervous about your speech?" Jake asked as they walked toward the town center. "A little," Zara admitted. "Speaking to large groups is still difficult in human language. But the message is important." The town square was packed with people of many different species. Humans mixed freely with blue-skinned Cathani, tall gray Venthari, and small furry Picani. Children of different species played together while their parents talked and laughed. Admiral Hayes, now Governor Hayes, introduced Zara to the crowd. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all species," Hayes began. 6 months ago, this world was a battlefield. Today, it's a symbol of what we can accomplish when we work together. Zara stepped up to the speaking platform. She looked small and delicate, but her voice carried clearly across the crowd. "When I first came to this world," she said, "I was running from war and slavery. I expected to die alone and afraid. Instead, I found a human who showed me that strangers can become family, that different species can become one people." She paused and looked at Jake, who stood in the front row with other government officials. "My husband taught me that love is not about being the same. Love is about choosing to protect and care for someone, even when you don't understand everything about them. Today we open this center so that all of us can learn to understand each other better." The crowd applauded loudly. Jake felt proud of his wife and amazed at how confident she had become. The scared refugee he had found in the ruins was now a leader helping to build a new kind of society. After the ceremony, they walked through the cultural center together. Different rooms showed the history, art, and customs of various species. In one room, human children were learning Cathani songs. In another, Cathani teenagers were playing human sports. "Look at that," Zara said, pointing to a group of mixed-species children playing together. "They don't see differences the way adults do. They just see friends." "Maybe that's the secret," Jake replied. "Maybe our kids will build a better world than we ever could." Dr. Alex approached them, carrying a medical scanner. "Time for your weekly checkup, Zara," she said. "How are you feeling?" "Tired, but good," Zara replied. "The baby is very active." Dr. Alex ran the scanner over Zara's belly and smiled. "Everything looks perfect. Heart rate is strong. Development is normal. This little one is going to be healthy." "Any idea what she'll look like?" Jake asked. "Based on the genetic scans, she'll have features from both parents," Dr. Alex explained. "Probably pale blue skin like her mother, but darker hair like her father. Her empathic abilities will likely be strong, but she'll also have human emotional resilience." "The best of both worlds," Zara said softly. That evening, they had dinner with Captain Ford and some of the other resistance veterans. Ford had been promoted to colonel and was now in charge of training the new mixed-species defense force. "Hard to believe this is the same place," Ford said, looking around their dining room. 2 years ago, we were hiding in tunnels eating canned food. Now look at us." "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't found Zara that day," Jake said. "You would have found someone else to save," Zara replied with a smile. That is who you are. Maybe, Jake said. But it wouldn't have been the same. You changed everything for me. You made me understand that being different doesn't mean being wrong. After dinner, Jake and Zara walked through their garden. Zara had planted flowers and vegetables from both Earth and Cathani homeworld. Somehow she had made them grow together in ways that the scientists said should be impossible. Jake, Zara said as they sat on a bench under the stars. Do you ever regret it? Choosing me instead of a human woman? Jake looked at his wife. Her alien features that had once seemed strange now looked beautiful and familiar. Her musical voice that had once been foreign now sounded like home. Her strange customs that had once confused him now felt natural. Never, he said firmly. You're not just my wife, Zara. You're my partner, my best friend, my anchor in the storm. I can't imagine my life without you. Zara leaned against his shoulder. When our daughter is born, what will we tell her about how we met? The truth, Jake replied. That sometimes the most important moments in life happen when we're not looking for them. That love can grow in the darkest places. That protecting someone can change both of your lives forever. And that embracing someone to keep them safe can turn into embracing them because you can't let them go, Zara added. Jake laughed. Is that what happened? That is exactly what happened, Zara said. You intended to save my life. Instead, you gave me a whole new life I never dreamed was possible. 3 months later, their daughter was born. They named her Hope, a name that worked in both human and Cathani languages. She was beautiful, with her mother's pale blue skin and silver hair, but her father's brown eyes and stubborn chin. Hope cried in harmonics that made the hospital windows vibrate. But she also had a human laugh that filled rooms with joy. When she was hungry, she projected emotion so strongly that nurses 3 floors away felt the urge to feed babies. But when she was happy, her contentment was so infectious that everyone around her smiled. She's going to be trouble, Dr. Alex said with a grin as she handed Hope to Jake. The best kind of trouble, Jake replied, looking down at his daughter. Hope opened her eyes and looked right at him, and Jake felt his heart expand in ways he didn't know were possible. As the years passed, Hope grew up speaking both human and Cathani languages. She learned to control her empathic abilities while also developing a very human sense of mischief. She made friends with children of every species in New Haven, and to her, the differences between them were just interesting facts, not barriers. One day when Hope was 5 years old, she asked Jake about the old days. Papa, tell me about when you and Mama were in the war, she said. Jake thought about how to explain it to a child who had grown up in peace. A long time ago, he began, there were people who thought that being different meant being enemies. They started a fight that hurt a lot of people. That's silly, Hope said. Different is good. Different makes life interesting. You're right, Jake agreed. But some grown-ups didn't understand that yet. So your mama and I had to help teach them. How did you teach them? By showing them that different people can work together, can take care of each other, can build something beautiful. Hope nodded seriously. Like our family. Exactly like our family. 10 years after the invasion, Jake stood in the same town square where they had dedicated the cultural center. But now he was watching Hope and dozens of other mixed-species children perform a concert that combined music from 6 different worlds. Zara stood beside him, now director of the Colonial Council and one of the most respected leaders in human space. She was pregnant again, and this time they were expecting twins. Look at her, Zara said proudly as Hope conducted a choir of human, Cathani, and Vinthari children. She makes it look so easy. She's never known a world where it was hard, Jake replied. To her, this is just normal. Maybe that's the real victory, Zara said. Not just that we won the war, but that we made a world where our children can't imagine fighting over differences. After the concert, Hope ran over to them with a big smile. Did you see, Papa? Did you hear how beautiful it sounded when everyone sang together? I heard it, sweetheart, Jake said, hugging his daughter. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Even more beautiful than when Mama sings to you? Hope asked with a mischievous grin. Jake looked at Zara and smiled. Well, that's different. That's the sound of home. Hope looked confused. But Papa, this is home. All of this is home. Jake realized his daughter was right. Home wasn't just Zara anymore, though she was still the center of his world. Home was this community they had built together. This place where different species lived and worked and loved together. You're absolutely right, Jake said.